You ever like I'm like, oh okay, I'll do a drawing of Scrap Baby from the new video because Eleanor and Scrap Baby are pretty important to that video. And I'm like, okay, here I go drawing. Oh boy, and then I pull up a reference for Scrap Baby. And this one was my first reference. I'm like, okay, I should be able to work with most of this character design and like finish it from there. And I'm like, wow, I can't really see any of her torso or like how her design really works. And then I got the one from the encyclopedia, and she's missing her arms. Like I can't really see, especially this right arm. Like we can kind of figure it out from this one. So now I am pulling out the actual frames we get to see her in, and goddamn did Scott waste this design. Firstly, look at the so the alleyways actually have animation. A lot of times you just see like the bright version of this, and I think I actually took it out of the folder because I use this image sometimes, the bright version of it. But like, look at the dark shot of this. Like, fucking hell! Imagine if you saw this consistently in the game. Like, look at the teeth. Look at that. Like, you can't see any of her. She's just like completely in the shadows. Like the eyes pitch black. This render fucking rules. And then it's like, oh my god. And then you look at like her jump scare. It's like you don't really get to see it because it's so fast. Like, remember, we're at a decent amount of frames per second, but like, look at how much detail even in this fairly lit render there is. Look at her fucking arm and shit. Look at like you can see like the wire flail around a tiny bit, but it's like static as I guess got to, because I mean you're only going to see this for a few seconds, but you can see it does kind of move a little, which means that is rigged to the arm an extent, because you can see it's not. If this was just one-to-one rigged with the arm, should be like a little over here-ish based on where it is here. But you can see that wire is moving separately, which means it's meshed to something, even though it doesn't have real wire physics. So it's not like flawless, but like people like have started giving Scott shit for some of his models and like character designs at times. And I say those people have not really looked at these character designs, because like, yeah, everyone makes fun of Peanut Afton in this game. But I mean, like, I feel like the reason Afton turned out the way he did was Scott was like, that's good enough, and then like spent the rest of his time modeling Scrap Baby. I think the only problems is that her. Okay, what the fuck am I looking at? I thought this was shadows, but it's not. This is. Okay, this is weird texturing. That's funky. But this is actually paint. That's not a shadow. There's like withered paint, or that's supposed to be like withered paint. It's like modeled weird. Because those shadows would not cast that. And that's the same color as this. So that's just a different layer of paint. And this is the one that shocked me the most from like how fucking good this model is. So this is Scrap Baby, right? This is like the start of the game where she looks up at you. And then we skip to what she actually looks like in the minigame section. And it's for like, firstly, what the fuck am I looking at here? But secondly, and then there's like the cutaway things where she's like looking at you before she does stuff. But this is some of the only times we have real-time jump scares in the series, because like FNAF is not a real-time jump scare thing. What I mean by that is the characters go from a static position to jumping at you. A lot of the times when Scott cheats a little bit. You'll pull down the camera and the character will just be there in the attack animation. And like, this is why you can actually stall in FNAF 2 a lot of the characters if you just don't do anything. They won't attack you until you typically do something after a certain amount of time, because the jump scare looks a little funky if you do it that way. But in this one, she's in her pose, and then from that pose, actually crawls towards you to jump scare you. God, that is so cool. And I kind of wish we could get to see her weird reflector eyes a little more, because we don't get to. Like, and also just look at those eyes. Like, look how detailed that is, and like you can see the little bits of wires in her mouth. She has like the serrated teeth. And you can actually see what's happening here. She's like resting on her arm a bit. And like, if you think about it from that like concept with your like, look at this pose. Remember, her hand is down here. This is her elbow. She's like leaning on the table like a little bit. That is a lot of personality for like what is going to mess with you as she like gets her arm back up to put it on the table down here. That, I think she's actually clipping into the table a little bit if you think about where the hand would be. But you can't really see that on screen, so it doesn't really matter. And then we have the reflectors actually active to show her green eyes, to give her like a faux human eye look. God, I really want to see the endoskeleton of Scrap Baby, because we really can't get a good look at it. But we can see that she actually is... It's very hard to see, but she is running the endo from cysto location at her core. You can see a lot of it still in there. And I believe, if I find another window, Circus Gallery. Yeah, so I think there's some storytelling in this design. Let me just copy this image and bring it back up on my art program. Let's do some, so, maybe? Is that supposed to be that? Yeah, no, yeah, I think that is. I think the idea is she's taking lights from her old stage now that she can kind of go back there anytime she wants. Also, by the way, like, the reflectivity in Scott's designs is always underlooked. You never really get to process how, like, reflective everything is. I'll see the camera there, which in tune, like, also reflects things. It's really fun. Yeah, I think this is supposed to be those lights, but I think it's a separate model, like, imitating them, if that makes sense. Like, I think Scott was just kind of making the lights from memory, sort of. Because I would also explain, like, why there's, like, the thick tubes there. Like, if you think of it from that angle where she's ripped these out of the walls, those tubes would be behind them, like, clipped into the wall to have, like, the power come in. And then she has, like, the little bit of pins from Circus Baby's design. She has acquired just seemingly random shit to put on herself to imitate, like, the plating she used to have. I think she did manage to grab Baby's old mask. I think that's what this is supposed to be. I think it's just slightly warped to Scott's new design. But as I learned, like, when trying to draw her, she has, like, a weird butt chin thing going on here unintentionally. Like, it looks really weird in drawing. I haven't done her hair yet because that's going to be a fucking mess. I'm going to have to, like, draw it on top of, like, normally, like, if I do, like, Russ's hair from Neon Dynamo, I'm going to do a very fast version. It's, like, I kind of draw it, like, where, you know, the hair would be. It's, like, just slightly over it. But, like, Baby's hair genuinely is just, like, stacked on her head a bit. Her actual, like, hair down here is kind of fine, but it's still, like, I'm doing a very crude, rough version of it. But it would be more like that, where it's like, you can see how much more volume it would have, is what I'm trying to say, if you, like, took this off, based on where her headline is kind of going. Either that, or, her headline genuinely extends this far. If you can see what I'm saying, like, if you actually go, like, based on the curvature, it looks like it should be down here, and her hair just stacked on top of it, or it actually goes, like, up here like a real hair, but that's still, like, that's her eye line, and these are her eyes. Like, that's the top of her brow, that's the eye line, and that's that, and then this is her mouth. and nose. Which, if you apply to, like, a real person, like, once again, I'm drawing this very quickly, so it's not going to look great. But, like, Rush from Neon Dynamo's design. Like, if you take, like, the eye lines there, and then brow right there, it's, like, not that exaggerated, but, like, there's some really weird crunching with her face design. It's kind of hard to explain if you're not, like, looking for it to replicate it. I did her cheeks way too big. That's something I didn't realize until, like, kind of drawing it myself. I also exaggerated her pigtails a ton in this drawing. But, I mean, they are pretty big in this design. Also, this was really weird. Like, this weird, like, almost breast simulation kind of thing she has going on. Like, what the fuck is this? This is not something normal baby has. I have no clue what she has going on here. Because, like, what the fuck else would you call this? Speaking of that, I have not read To Be Beautiful in a while, but I had to for this new video to double check, like, how Eleanor is described and, like, portrayed. And oh boy, does a lot of the art for, like, Eleanor make more sense. So let me pull up Eleanor's original design of, like, that she was intended to have for reference before we get to, like, what she ended up. Come on, what the fuck is going on? Copy image. Why can I not? Okay, fuck you. I don't know why this is done this way. Okay, this is the design I'm looking for. I don't know why it wasn't letting me copy and paste it. Normally I can. I was like, wow, this is really weird for a design. And this is, like, straight up a circus character baby. And then, where is a good drawing of Eleanor from? Yeah, from what she ended up having in the graphic novel. Yeah, I'm allowed to copy and paste that. Why? So, this is graphic novel Eleanor. Very different. A lot less focus on the segmented face, but still very baby-like, especially this version. And then I, like, read the description, and it kind of made more sense, once I, like, read how she's described, because this isn't actually, I mean, it's still really fucking weird, like, this is not the way I would do it, but reading it, I can see how these two designs were kind of made. She still has a really long neck in this design, though. I like the long neck is a very reoccurring detail in Eleanor designs. Which is, to be fair, actually, because here's the thing: whether or not Eleanor is actually baby does not matter. I will say, reading her description, I can't help but think they were inspired by baby for Eleanor as a concept. Whether she literally is or not does not matter as much as I'm like, no, this totally could be Eleanor. Or this totally could be baby. And it's like, if you actually take her description, which is like green eyes, big cheeks, lips, which actually are a pretty much Scrap Baby and Ballora exclusive concept, like, let me, does she have, oh, she does, okay, so she has lips in her normal design, too. Like I said, not a common thing in FNAF, and also, actually, let me just copy this image so I have this on reference. And also, skirt, which is, I think Baby is one of the only characters with a traditional skirt in her design, period. Because Ballora has a tutu. which is kind of a skirt, but it's not quite in practice for the design. But if we're thinking kind of pre-existing characters, if you were to be like Ballora or Eleanor has to be a prior character, there's no one other than Baby could be. I need to turn off Discord when I'm doing these fucking videos. So yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on with her design in general, and also she has like the weird reflector eyes, which is really funky. She has like the glowing white dots that come from nowhere. I think. Like looking at this design, what exactly are those supposed to be? Okay, it looks like there's like another ring inside of her eyes. Or that, what the fuck is this? Okay, yeah, it is another smaller ring, like the one on the outside, just without the plating thing that she's got going on. And you know, other than this weird texturing for like the peeling paint, Babies are really well designed, and like there's a lot of detail and effort put into this design. Blurry Baby. That's like really hard to ignore. That I think should be acknowledged more. That was kind of my point with this. But anyway, going back to Eleanor. So she's like defined as having a skirt. She's defined as having like noticeable green eyes and having the rosy cheeks, and she's also specifically a clown, which is something I noticed. Let me pull up the. Let me pull up Into the Pit so I can find her description. She's also described as being light. Delicate waist. Who knows what the fuck that means? Is it thin waist? Is that what that's going on? Okay. Whatever it was beautiful. It had wide green eyes, wide green long lashed eyes. Check. It had pink Cupid's bow lips. Check. It is pink. It had pink circles on her face. Check. Its face was painted like a clown, but a pretty clown. Okay, here's the weird thing. Baby is canonically supposed to be pretty. Scott just made her terrifying and kind of ugly looking. Like Elizabeth like goes on about like, wow, you're so pretty and shiny. Wow. So check, actually. Pretty clown. Got it. Its red hair was curled up into twin pigtails on the top of its head. Its body was sleek and silver. Now that's what's one of the funkier designs. Says that lines up more with Scrap Baby than normal Baby, but this still kind of does apply. She still is kind of silver, just a very white, pale silver compared to. I mean, to be fair, this is barely silver too, but it's kind of her design change. This is the one thing with the graphic novels is they are not super consistent with lighting and how they handle the designs. This one looks pretty silver. She later looks more sleek white. Long fit with a long neck. Okay, I can see that a little more, but like, I don't think it meant this long. This is like a head length, not okay. On the top of its head was sleek silver, sleek. It was sleek and silver with a long neck, tiny waist. Now that's where we're finally deviating from Baby because she has a very bulky design. But I'm going to get to why this is kind of bullshit. Actually, if we're thinking thin waist specifically, maybe I could see that. Its legs and arms were long and slender and elegant. Oh, sorry, I skipped a bit. Tiny waist, a rounded bust, and hips. Its legs and arms were long, slender, and elegant. It looks like a robotic version of the gorgeous supermodels hung on walls of Sarah's room. That's where we're starting to deviate a little bit because Baby is not slender in design. That is where Eleanor is different. There is the caveat here that is really fucking annoying about Eleanor and the Mimic as characters. I'm not saying Eleanor is the Mimic, I'm just saying, like, these two have this trait that pisses me off. These are the two characters with the most arbitrary abilities and powers ever given to, like, a FNAF character. Eleanor is randomly able to do weird shapeshifty shit and create illusions. So, is this scrap... So, could this hypothetically, assuming Eleanor is lying about her name here, under this theory, you could totally say she is just shapeshifted to look like what Sarah wants to see, which is a beautiful supermodel, but still looks loosely like herself. Because, remember, if this is... Let's say for this hypothetical, this is not saying this is true, I'm not saying this is my belief, I'm just saying, like, how easy it is to make these theories. Eleanor has the ability to look like whatever the fuck she wants. So, and if Elizabeth is the mind piloting this vessel, let's say, and Elizabeth thinks of Baby as pretty, she just has to modify a Baby's appearance a little bit, accounting for what Sarah wants. To try its maybe more beautiful. Yeah. That's an on-off switch on its back. All over. It is weird that she's supposed to be deactivated there, though. I don't get what the fuck that's about. I don't know why Eleanor would be something you can even activate or deactivate. Sarah, hello friend. My name is Eleanor. Okay. Whatever. This is just kind of a story from here. Also, I've realized this is a completely random thing. In all of my scripts, every time I've ever mentioned Eleanor, I spelt it like this. It's spelled like this. That's something really dumb and arbitrary, but it's just like, I never got that right. I didn't even realize. Because, like, Docs wasn't autocorrecting that. So I guess Eleanor is also a spelling, even though the canonical spelling is that. Oh yeah, it's specifically actually, here is something the graphic novel did wrong. It's supposed to be a short skirt. That's knee length, which I mean, like, that actually means Baby is more accurate in that regard, but whatever. Though it is described as billowing, which would be fabric, so that's something different there, but whatever. I'm just reading the story, seeing if there's anything. I'm just reading, like, if there's any more descriptions of Eleanor. Oh, I'm just using Control F in my document. What I do like about To Be Beautiful is Sarah isn't as annoying as some characters are in later Fright stories. Like, Frights really doubled down on the, like, shitty kid gets punished as the stories went on, and I really didn't like that. I felt like Step Closer was probably one of the better balances for the character design. In general, where it's like, or not character design, character personality, where it's like, that's not as horrible and unlikable as some of the later ones. God, the Kids at Play was fucking so atrocious to me, where I'm like, Kids at Play, Jump for Tickets, those were the two that I'm like, is there any fucking redeeming qualities about these kids? Like, not that they deserve the deaths they get, but it's like, could we be at least a little upset, you know? I think I know this isn't FNAF, but uh the oldest view with what's his name? Wyatt. The oldest view is Kane Pixel's kind of original series that is not I don't mean original since it's before Backrooms. I mean it's an original idea not based on something like Backrooms. But brain thinking. But Wyatt in that is like what I feel a lot of the Frights kids should have been. It should have been an innocent kid messing with something they shouldn't have, and not really realizing what they were stumbling upon. I think the problem with so many of the Fright stories is like they are so provocative of the bad shit at times. And it's like sometimes the punishment is so weird and arbitrary where it's like, okay, why? Like I said, Kids at Play I really dislike because it's such a weird fucking story. Fazbear Entertainment just happens to produce a marketing scheme themed around Kids at Play things. This kid speeds and has road rage. Therefore, he'll be turned into a Kids at Play sign. Why? And then it's like, Jump for Tickets is also fucking weird. And then Lonely Freddy was also kind of weird. And it's like, fucking kids, chill the fuck out. Some of them aren't as bad, but some of them really are. Where I'm like, God damn it! Like I said, Step Closer was like fine because like Pete, I think is the name of the kid in Step Closer, where it's like, yeah, he's not the nicest dude, but he's like he tries to apologize and he feels bad at times, and he's like, there's like a sense of like him having an actual conscience, even if he does bad things, which some of the kids just don't feel like they do. Anyway, I'm not even sure. Like, while I do actually really like how far I've gone with this, this might be too detailed of a design, and I might just have to contact someone for like using their render, or just use these renders the whole time, because this is such a because like my thought process is like, oh, I'll have my render of Baby to work with that I don't have to worry about contacting people for. Which is why I drew separate from all of this. I wanted to specifically pair it with my Eleanor design, like draft design, which was made kind of. I mean, it is accurate to what she's described as. It's kind of a hybrid between the different Eleanor designs that we have. Was kind of my angle. She still has a long neck in this, though. I will say, like, there's kind of no way to do Eleanor without having some of those details. But I took some liberties. Like I wanted her to have like wires like going throughout her to show her more freaky side, and I wanted to have like cracks in her because I'm thinking of this as like a blanket Eleanor, not just the one from To Be Beautiful. Like I want this to be kind of like all Eleanor designs sort of wrapped into one to some extent. Which is why I went this route. But whatever, this has been a whole mess. Going back to my original point, though, with this whole video, like the reason I started recording is just like this design's really fucking cool. This like scrap baby aesthetic and design, real cool, and is very underappreciated. Like, and it's not even all of the withering. Like, look at this withering. That seems to be actually raised a little bit, and like that texturing's pretty good there for like the holes. It's a little more square here, but it's not that bad. And then it's like, yeah, this is a little square, but also it's rounded enough where it's not that bad. Like this is, I would say, somewhere between the Wizards and the Nightmares level withering. It's not quite as bad as Scrap Trap, who is just like straight up square Minecraft cubes taken out of his design, rather than the more rounded ones like here. I really wish Scrap Trap had as detailed and like really well executed of a design as Scrap Baby, because I really like this design now that I've really looked at it. It's just batshit. But hopefully you can see a detour in like me talking about Eleanor and how that connects to Scrap Baby, because at this point, while I don't think, I wonder if Eleanor was meant to be the baby of this universe, or meant to be baby and just kind of got thrown into being a different character or something. Because I can't read that description without being like, that's a weird amount of things to call back to baby. And especially, that design really fucking calls back to novel baby, which is weird. Because, like, uh, just because novel, actually, I have some graphic novels, first class. That's the one graphic novel I don't have on easy access on my computer. Oh, I did find a way to work around that. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I found someone who. I don't have the physical graphic novel Fourth Closet. Um, but if you consider Eleanor with graphic novel baby in mind, that makes it an eerily canny match, actually, now that I think about it. There are some subtle ways you can connect Frights to the novels, actually. Not that I think that's really the case, it's just like, it's an interesting thing to ponder and, like, account for. Um, I kind of wish they did reveal Eleanor was baby and just didn't have her act in the story the way she ended up being, if that makes sense. That's kind of hard to explain. Um, I'm not like the biggest fan of like her being this random powerful monster. Yeah, especially shots like these. Like, how could you not? If the hair was right in this design. No, actually, she does this. That's specifically her flashback design when she's still supposed to be Charlie. Let me find one of the renders where she looks more like. Yeah, this render is what I'm thinking of. This is the one where I'm like, that's really close. Yeah, this one. Come on, shit. Give me a full body shot to work with for like, yeah, this design is the one that's real close in practice to what Eleanor's described as. Where she's kind of baby but still very humanoid. Yeah, this one. Yeah, I cannot. That is weirdly accurate. Because like, there's always like the excuse of like, baby's not that slender, but Eleanor's supposed to be really slender. But this design very much is. I kind of wish there was a model sheet for this one. Yeah, because if you think of this design really matches Eleanor's description. Like an uncanny amount. Where this could just easily be that design. Well, whatever. That's a whole separate tangent to itself. Because she only has the different hair when she's being more like Charlie. Whereas when she's trying to be baby, she's really accurate. I've thought about a Frights being Silver Eyes storyline. It's like, or like a theory like that, but I've never really gotten it to work. There's just too many small little hiccups where I'm like, can I really make that theory? But at the same time, it would explain some things. I mean, like, we have a Susie in that series. We have a William in that series. We have a burned pizzeria, but it's not quite the same, you know? It's not, that's Pizza World, if I'm remembering correctly. That's kind of the one that that you could become a burned pizzeria, but then it's like, I don't fucking know. It's a whole mess of like a theory that doesn't really work on some levels. I just thought I'd talk about all of this because it is worth talking about Eleanor's design. It is worth talking about Baby design. And it's really interesting to take a look at them on a very deep, like, a level. What the fuck is going up with their design in some spots, though? Like, this is actually the particular render I'm the most confused by. Because what is going on with her legs? Her skirt is down here. So are her legs clipping through? Like, what the fuck is going on in this render? Yeah, her legs would have to be coming out of her torso. That would be like, fucking, what? That's really weird, actually. Now, that's really distracting, too, now I noticed it. Huh. Well, whatever. That's random. But this is actually a design. This is kind of the second time I've had to do a sort of an analysis of a design like this. Can I get this to another window? I'll just find a render. Where's the yeah. Yeah, this is the second time because I had to design Newspaper Baby, Frights Friends Newspaper Baby, and this is kind of like a, how do I make this design not horrific and terrible? And I also mashed in a lot of her Circus Baby traits. Like, I kind of darkened the reds a bit. Because this is straight up pink. Like, this render makes it really pink in particular. And I'm like, you have the blue streaks in her hair in this version with, like, the other colors. I'm like, I'll just settle for one streak. And then, like, knee pads kind of explain, like, what this shit is. Especially, like, oh, if she's going to be on roller skates, then I'll have it like that. And then she has, like, the very tubular kind of, like, band design on her arms, which I translated to these bands on her legs. And, like, she has the skirt in both designs, but I made it, like, more one clean skirt like Baby's. Rather than, like, the weird torn in two Scrap Baby one. Let me find this one where you can really see that it's, like, randomly torn in two down the middle. I thought about giving her the arm frills, but they were really hard to draw, and I didn't want to have to draw that every time. And I also gave her, like, a picture of a windmill rather than the random one she has in her actual design. Like I said, like, the knee pads to kind of, like, convey this part of her design. I do wonder if she found an old Baby design and that's adapted it, or the idea is she went to sister location and found what parts she could, and then used trash to build up the rest of her, or what. Like, there's a lot of people don't really give credit to, like, some of the cool story building to the designs in the Scott era, but there is definitely some funky storytelling going on with this design in particular. Anyway, I'm ranting. Bye.